We are all about showcasing authors and supporting authors to become authorpreneurs. Natalie McQueen and Becky Norwood of Spotlight Publishing bring to you their Authors Spotlight and expert interviews. Success as an author hinges around well-thought-out marketing, which begins the moment you put your pen to paper or begin to tap the keyboard. Their expertise guides their authors to become #1 bestsellers, yet it doesn't stop there. The book establishes expertise, builds a business, and opens the doors to being seen, being read, and then being paid for their knowledge. Listen to this informative interview by Spotlight Publishing with Natalie and Becky.
So we have Donna Balzer and Natalie McQueen, and I'm Becky Norwood. We're with Spotlight Publishing, Spotlight on your book and business. And today we're highlighting our wonderful author, Donna Balzer. Donna, I'm going to read your bio first, which is what I was supposed to do. I want to make sure you look like no, you're not frozen, you're moving, good. Donna Balzer has 2 greenhouses and a big vegetable garden on her urban lot. She's an award-winning media personality and garden consultant with a personal passion for growing food and soil in northern regions. Horticulturist, speaker, and author, Donna has a degree in agriculture with a specialty in horticulture. She has 3 seasons as host of the internationally broadcast Bugs and Blooms, wow, on HGTV, appears regularly on CBC radio and blogs on several sites. Her new Facebook Live events started May 21st and are scheduled to run live every Monday at 3 p.m. Donna's book, No Guff Vegetable Gardening, is a Canadian bestseller, and her newest book, The 3-Year Gardener's Gratitude Journal, came out this year. And it's got your sticker that you sent me. And tell us about your...
I should show you this one, the bestseller. That's the I don't know if you can see it, No Guff Vegetable Gardening.
That's awesome.
Just loaded with little cartoon images. People love it. We tried to play off that with our new journal.
Well, having been a gardener extraordinaire in other climates, I have had quite the time to figure out Arizona's climate for growing and pretty much do things in reverse.
Right.
Because our plants just really don't like this intense heat, especially like tomatoes and different things. So I usually plant in the late fall and have stuff all through the winter. So
I know all the Canadians love to go to Arizona and get in.
And we do have kind of 2 growth seasons here, correct? As far as Arizona.
Yeah.
I watch sometimes the garden guy on 3TV, and he always says, get ready for your spring, get ready for your fall. So yeah.
Well, that's what I love about the journal, actually, because it's actually the gardener's memoir. It's not my memoir or your memoir. The gardener writes down just in a 3-year cycle so that you can track it and see what you've been doing, because it doesn't matter what the gardening guy is doing or what Donna Balzer is doing. It's what are you doing, Natalie? And you write it down, and then you get that 3 chances, 3 years in a row, so that you can record memories and see what's up.
See what's really growing well, when it's growing well, and all that good stuff, and what the weather's doing. Very unpredictable.
And you'll find even on different sides of your house, things will do differently. Like maybe in the fall or in the summer, maybe tomatoes will do good if they're in the north-facing exposure. It's just so interesting to follow individual gardens and individual gardeners and see what they're up to.
Right. I actually had a Christmas poinsettia and you wouldn't think that here on the desert those things would grow. But I found a shaded spot at the place that I lived at the time, and it got gigantic. And I was just never saw one like that. It was
it's a Mexican plant.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Yeah.
And it was absolutely gorgeous, but it was actually pretty much didn't ever get any direct sun. So it was happy. Yeah. So tell us about your journey to becoming an author and what that's been like for you, and what has it done for you?
Wow. Well, this isn't my first rodeo, as they say, but being an author is tremendous, because when people are looking for speakers, they immediately ask, do you have a book? And of course, I've been a speaker for probably 20 years, And my first book came out in 1995. So it's just been really interesting to see that progress. People, if they find out you have a book, they think, oh, she must be a better speaker. And as you know, these two things are not connected. Writers usually like to sit in their office by themselves, not communicating with anyone. And speakers have to be out there communicating. So it's a completely different skill set, but they do like you better as a speaker if you have a book.
Well, it's very true. And the other part of the equation is when you say you're an author, that immediately conjures up, wow, this person knows what they're talking about. There's still that esteem that comes from being an author as well.
Oh yeah, it's tremendous. In fact, I'm interviewing people now for my next book. Can't talk about that yet, but we will soon, I'm sure. And the first guy I interviewed, who was a 21-year-old, said to me, he said, oh, you just can't trust anything you read on the internet. And I just laughed because he's 21. That's usually all they trust. So
right.
People love
Exactly.
they love things in writing, right? They love that.
Well, I can say there's nothing like holding one in your hand, the actual book in your hand. When there's so much online and we can read it from on our phones and everything else, there's still something really special about being able to read.
That's right. And also because this is an interactive book, you're reading and writing.
Right.
So we did place some of the little weekly journal articles online, but then you have to type in the response. So then you have to be on your phone or on your computer. Right. And in gardening especially, you just want to get away from it. You want to go out and pick a blackberry and say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to write that down in my journal. And then you just sit down and write it down. You don't want to always be on your computer.
Yeah, we need to, and really for health and everything else, you need to be disconnected from it.
That's right. So the book gives you just a chance to get away. I like to do it first thing in the morning. So I always do yesterday, today, because that way I can think, now what was actually important yesterday? Because I've only got like a small space. You can only write a sentence about what you did. But I get such a kick out of it. I do this for personal writing too, not just for garden writing. I have a little tiny journal where I do my everyday notice for 3 years. And I'll call it to my husband, guess what? Last year we had the twins visiting this week, or our dog had this operation or something like that. There's always something that's really fun to catch up on.
Look back on, yeah.
And actually,
so how did this book, did it come from other people suggesting that they needed a journal or wanted to take what they learned in your first book and document?
No, but I do have a lot of followers who were looking, because my last book was 7 years ago. So they were wondering and looking, when's Donna coming out with something else? And for myself, I'm just a passionate gardener. I love to garden. Mm-hmm. And I've been writing down things on scraps of paper and on my calendar and on seed packets for years. Right. And finally I said, I'm doing other kinds of journaling. I'm so grateful for gardens and what I get, all the food I get. Why don't I combine that and put it in a journal? My daughter is working with me. She wrote half the stories. And that in itself was an amazing process to get to work with. If you've ever never done it, it's worth trying to work with a child who's now grown up and has grandchildren of her own. So that was a really great process. We just decided, let's do it. Let's write the stories. Let's figure out the layout. So it kind of came by organically, which is a silly thing for a gardener to say, but it's true. We knew we needed to do a book. Chelsea wanted to do a book because she's a speaker, and we did it together.
That's awesome. So beautiful.
What I love is your quote, real life garden stories teach through trial and error. That's awesome. Yeah. Garden talk, play on the words.
Yes. Trial and error. That's us.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that I was so delighted when you signed up for the interview, and a few days later I got this book. Oh, it's just like a special treasure to be able to have this in my own hands. And what made it special too is your gorgeous little stickers.
Okay, well, my daughter's a millennial. And I came up with this idea of stickers, and she was like, geez, Mom, nobody wants stickers. Who's going to want those stickers? I said, I don't know. I'll just do a few then. I want the stickers because they have little things on them like favorite plant or bugging me or first harvest or first tomato, all those little landmarks. that you want to be able to stick right inside. So you've got a little color moment where you've got it stuck. And she said, no, but you know, found out within the first 5 minutes, people were like, well, I want some stickers. People even order extra stickers when they order their books sometimes.
That's great.
That's really cool.
You never grow too old to love stickers.
Other people are like, hey, my kids got those stickers and used them up. Can you send me some more? And I'm like,
Yeah, I know. I had to watch my grandkids. Nope, you don't get these ones.
because you know what, they aren't really attached in the book. I just send them out when people do an order. They're a separate sheet that I just stick in, and it's not part of the printing process. It was just a little extra that we came up with at the end. And I think, you know, if you've got something different, sometimes that makes it fun too for people.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. So as an author, that now you've got 2 books, you're working on your 3rd book. What would you do differently even after your 2nd book? What would you do? Is there anything you would do differently in that whole process?
Yes, I've already got the web page for the next book. Now I don't have it designed, but I have the, well, my people call it a splash page, but I've already got the .com or .net or whatever it is. I've already got that secured, and I've kind of done that before I've even fixed on the title. I'm also working with another partner. I find working with a partner is tremendous.
Yes,
And
it
I have
is.
a partner who has never written, and she doesn't want to do the writing, but she has other skills that she's bringing to this other book. And I like working with a partner. I think that's really fun.
Yeah, it's a beautiful process, especially because you have different skill sets, and there's so many pieces to that. You know, we do a series that we're teaching that your book is your business. And actually, while it is not your business per se, you need to treat it like it's a business, because it is actually your foot in the door. It's actually establishing you even more as an expert. But you have to start from the moment, we always say, when you put pen to paper to start writing that book, that's when you start your marketing for it.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And if anybody doesn't, they should just not do a book at all. We call our first book, I did it with Stephen Biggs, we called it the biggest business card ever, because it's big.
And probably most expensive.
Yeah, the most expensive business card. But sometimes that's all it is. You send it out, it's a business card. A card might fall through the cracks and fall on the floor. That book is going to be sitting there, and people are going to go, oh, let me have a look at that. And next thing you know, you're featured in a magazine, or featured, you know, as a speaker.
Well, and that's the beautiful part, because they might not even get looked at, and they might get put on the shelf, but eventually at some point they're going to pick it up.
Yes, and that's where that website and all that stuff that links it back to people is so important.
Yeah. So in this next book, are you going to have, one thing we encourage our authors to do is to have links to the website within the book for a downloadable tip sheet or any number of different things, a video, but the only way they get it is to put their name and email in. So it sends it to an opt-in form on your website, and you get their name and email. On the back side, you're using an automated email system that picks it up, and then you can give tidbits through the email system because you've captured their name. So you're building, it's incorporating list building to have your following, so you can continually drip really good information to them.
And are you suggesting a separate list for each book, or are you suggesting that, like, I already have a list on my website, people could get the top organic tips if they sign up, and I'd love you to sign up even though you're in a different region. Organic is organic. So I already have a list like that going. Are you saying that for each book we should do a separate list?
You don't have to, but you could have an opt-in that if you wanted it to go to that same list, then you would use that same opt-in form. So the book would have a link to that particular page that had that opt-in form on your website. And you talk about, well, be sure, you know, if you want this, to put your name and email, and we'll be sure and send that right on over to you.
Okay.
Really powerful, because then you're also, you're adding to your list. And from that list, you're also able to tell about your other books. You're also able to, and another thing that's wise to do is to, in that 3rd book, advertise your other book. So you put a picture and links to the other books.
That's like really great idea. Oh, Bonnie, you know it all.
So you know, those are just little things. They seem like little things the beauty about what you're doing and now having a third book on there is when people read your stuff, they're going to be watching if they like one, they're going to like the next. So they're going to be watching, and where studies are showing now that when an author has more than one book, people are much more likely to purchase.
Oh, really?
So it's because they say, well, this person's really knowing what they're talking about. So it just, and you can build off of each book so that this next book that you're doing, you talk about this book and you have a link to this book. And even your first book, you talk about that book. And it can be a little section at the back, but you're using up your own real estate. It's basically, you take advantage of all the little pieces of things that you can do for more exposure and more book sales.
That sounds great. What a good tip.
Yeah, so good. So any thoughts that you would like to share? I have a little bit of something else that you sent me this morning or yesterday morning. These days are going too fast.
Yeah, for sure.
It says, when you hit or miss in your garden, where are you going to celebrate it? In the 3-Year Garden Gratitude Journal, part diary, part personal growing guide by Donna Balzer and Chelsea Anderson. And that's your daughter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This is an entertaining read from 2 expert gardeners. Author Nikki Jabor says it's a beautiful and practical and inspiring book. Outdoor lifestyle expert Carson author says, love the concept. Journaling and gardening are both trends that millennials are incorporating into their lives. What a wonderful way to link them together. This is awesome. And the beautiful thing about what you mentioned here is that you start writing anytime in your journal. You're not bound by, oh, well, that journal's out of date. So
right. Like some of them have like the date, July 12th, 2018. Well, once you pass that date, you can't get back. We just have a spot where you can fill in the year. July 12th is there, but what year are you starting? So you can start in August or start in September or whenever you are starting. I also want to point out it's about nature observation as well. It's not just about physical gardening. I found yesterday, I had a hummingbird come to a fennel plant that I was growing, and it stopped on the fennel and it was pecking at it. I've never seen it was a hummingbird. They're not supposed to peck. I ran right outside to see what it was doing, and there were some aphids on that fennel. That a big portion of a hummingbird diet
with aphids.
Is insects. Aphids.
You definitely want your hummingbirds around your garden.
I know, but I hadn't witnessed that myself. So I wrote that down. So it is about those little observations. The first day you see a snake in your garden, that's, you don't necessarily want that, but spring, especially see snakes. And also, I saw something this year I have never seen before. I saw slugs mating.
Oh,
doing their thing. And I thought to myself, before I started writing and journaling about gardening, I just didn't pay attention. The more you get into gratitude and you're reading more and you're meditating, the more you're doing that, whether it's about gardening or just anything really in your life, you get more focused and you just notice more things. And I really like that about, it seems dumb, but it's really great.
Seems kind of slimy to me.
Yeah. Positive thing. And now I know slugs are mating in my garden.
Well, that's interesting because even though right now I'm not doing much gardening, I've been walking every morning for at least 3 miles. And I noticed as I walked by this bush, there was the mama quail and teeny tiny babies. And then up a little further was a woodpecker. And then there's 2 barn owls, little horny looking things that watch me walk by every day. They don't smile. They don't do nothing. And then this morning was a baby roadrunner.
Oh,
and he wouldn't take off flying. So he kept running ahead of me. And I felt so bad for him. I'm like, he's got to fly sometime because
he's a roadrunner.
But he kept running ahead of me. He's a baby. And finally he took off and flew away. But it was interesting to watch those little things that you start to notice when you take time for yourself.
Those are the things that when you write them down, like I say, just one line a day. Did you see a roadrunner next year at exactly the same time? Are these patterns? Because then we start to see how the whole world works. And if everyone had something little like that to hang on to, everyone would have more appreciation for the whole wide world.
Absolutely.
Yes, very much.
I've got one quick question.
Sure.
One thing, my neighbor has a beautiful garden. She often says, come on over and pick, some tomatoes and jalapenos, and she's got wonderful things. But she is having some issues with some insects eating her tomatoes and stuff. Is there because she wants to keep it all organic, and is there a way that you can beat those insects without, compromising your organic garden?
For sure. A lot of people will just choose to use mechanical methods. So they'll put up something called fleece, which is like a very thin interfacing or something. You just put it over it, and it's a barrier.
Okay.
But it heats up too much. And so you're in a hot climate. Maybe if you're up in Sedona, that would be okay. Down in Arizona, that might be a little too warm. So a better choice might be something like Protect Net, which is a finer mesh. It's more like cheesecloth.
Okay.
Small enough that keeps the big moths and it's usually the moths that are laying those little guys that hatch and then become large hornworms or whatever. So some kind of barrier is a good thing. I've been trying hard on a whole different method. I've been trying hard to build up my soils, because as your soils get better, the plants get a waxy coat on them. You've seen this at the farmer's market. I know when you look at the spinach there, you see it's really glossy. And the spinach at the regular grocery store is flat and it's not shiny.
Okay.
When plants have their luxuriant amount of fertilizer, an amount that they really need, then the leaves are glossier and thicker, and they don't attract insects. They reflect the light. You'll see
The health of the plant.
the health of the plant is reflected in the soil. So I have spent years building up my soils, and people don't believe that I do not cover. I don't use a mechanical cover on my cabbages, and they are usually the plant, more than anything, that gets the big hordes of insects.
Okay.
I have had really good luck with that. So I think in her first year, when she's first trying to beat this problem, better to put up a barrier. Later and ongoing, just start today, start building your soil. So little things like kelp meal, kelp, K-E-L-P, which is made from an ocean organism. It's not a plant, it's not an animal, it's something that's found only in the ocean. They always say kelp is so good for us to eat. Guess what? It's great for your plants too. You can buy it, dilute it with water, water in your little seedlings. It's tremendous. There's so many micronutrients, the little tiny things that are in kelp that are not normally in your soil. Or if you always grow tomatoes in the same spot, and if she has a perfect spot, she's probably always growing them. Those plants withdraw. It's like taking money out of the bank. If you take out all the quarters, you can't get quarters later. You can only get dollars or whatever. And so our soils are like that. They have those little amounts of nutrients, and when we grow the same plant all the time, they start to run out. So it's usually not the big thing. Everybody knows about nitrogen and phosphorus. It's usually not that. It's usually the smaller things.
Okay.
Like the micronutrients. So she could watch my Facebook Live and ask that question. I would love it.
I will definitely give it to her.
We'll send a link, and so they can buy your journal at donnabalzer.com/garden-journal.
Right. Or if they just go to donnabalzer.com, they can click on journal. Yeah.
Perfect. What a delightful interview. Thank you so much for taking this time.
All right. Well, thank you. And thanks for all your tips.
Oh, you're welcome.
Authors hire Becky and Natalie of Spotlight Publishing for their guidance in treating their book as their business. Many authors have no idea where to start, how to market themselves, nor how to have a successful book launch reaching #1 bestseller. This often leads to discouragement and disappointment. Spotlight Publishing works with their authors to get seen, get read, and get paid for their knowledge and expertise. For more information, go to www.spotlightonyourbusiness.com. Spotlight Publishing. Your book is your business.